This is all Dolphins talk on the Our Lads Football Network as the Miami Dolphins come up with a huge win over New England, knocking the Patriots out of playoff contention for the first time in 11 seasons, and also keeping the Dolphins in the playoffs as the 7th seed. They control their own destiny. The easy way is to take care of your own business. Beat Las Vegas on Saturday night, and then take care of business against Buffalo a week after that. And then Miami will be back in the postseason. They have already clinched a winning record for the first time since 2016. How's everything going, Alan?
Oh, it's going well, going even better after Sunday. You mentioned big win, clinched the winning season, knocked the Patriots out of the playoffs. Didn't get a lot of help from other teams around the AFC, and that would have made things easier down the stretch, where they're still looking like they'll need to win those two games, because if they don't and finish 10-6, they're looking at the possibility of being on the outside looking in, despite that really good record, if they don't get some help in terms of beating either the Ravens, and that would have to be Cincinnati in week 17, or either Indianapolis or Cleveland losing their last two games, which that's probably is not likely.
Yeah, it is interesting because, and it's not a good thing, that if the Dolphins don't win both their games, the chances of them making the playoffs are very slim. And so but the good news is they control their own destiny. So there's good and there's bad. But the most important thing is they control their own destiny. So they're in the best of both worlds, or the best of either world. And that is what they have to do. That's what everybody wants. Take care of your own business. They don't have to look at the scoreboard. And the way Las Vegas is playing, and Marcus Mariota will be the starter this week, but the way the Vegas Raiders have played over the last month, and the way the Dolphins have played over the last couple of months, I'd be a little bit surprised if Miami wasn't able to take care of business on Saturday. And then if they do take care of business, it's very possible and likely that when they take on Buffalo in the final week of the season, the Bills will be going, look, we got to play a game next week. This game means absolutely nothing to us. No way we're playing our starters for the entire game.
The only issue I would take with that statement is if it comes down to the game, meaning second or third seed for the Bills, which will happen unless Pittsburgh loses at home against Indy on Sunday and the Bills win Monday night against the Patriots, which certainly is a possibility that those two things could happen, in which case, nope, then Tennessee becomes a factor. So I don't think Buffalo is going to be able to clinch the second seed this weekend. And then the difference between the second seed and the third seed is that playing that second playoff game at home. There are some coaches who don't like to rest their starters in a final game like this, because they believe you kill some of the mojo or some of the momentum you've built up. So not everybody subscribes to the theory of let's make sure our guys stay healthy and not play our big time players. So I'm not 100% convinced that that's how the Bills are going to play it.
Well, just keep in mind, and this is a different year because, and also the Bills lost in the playoffs last year with this unit, but the Jets played them last year in a game that meant nothing in week 17. They played Allen for just a series, the starters, then they played the backups. But again, that could be, well, hey, we lost in the playoffs. That didn't work. Maybe we will let these guys play. So we won't know for sure. If it's me, and obviously I'm not the head coach of the Bills, but if it's me, I'm maybe I'll play him for a half, but I'm not risking it. Especially Allen, he's always getting hit. He wants to run. I just 2 and 3. There's no fans in the stands. I probably just I wouldn't risk it.
No, that's fair, and I certainly could see that happening. I wouldn't be shocked. And again,
but anything could happen.
No, and I'm going to go back to, you got a team that's playing some really, really good football lately. They've been really dominating. Right now, they look like they could be a threat to KC in the AFC.
Yep.
Could one half of playing your backups with Matt Barkley at quarterback kill the mojo you have heading into the playoffs? I don't know. But there may be some superstition involved, saying you're thinking, you know what, we got this thing rolling. I don't want to do anything that's going to slow down the roll. So again, I don't know exactly how that's going to play out. It just wouldn't shock me if the Bills played their main guys the whole time.
And I think from Miami's perspective, look, if you're a fan, I'm looking at it as, well, look, first of all, we better take care of business against the Raiders, because the way they're playing, if we don't beat the Raiders, we don't deserve to be in the playoffs. That's number one. Number two, we do beat the Raiders, and even if the Bills play their starters, they are not, no matter what the coaching staff and management feels about the importance of everything we just talked about, there is no way those players are going to be playing that game with the same intensity and meaning that the Dolphin players will be playing. So that would then, as a fan, like I'm saying, that I will then be, I'd be pretty happy about knowing that, okay, like again, as we started with, take care of your own business. Don't get swept by the Bills when we want this game more than they do, and I think that should be a little bit of an advantage, even if the Bills do play their starters.
That's fair. And the interesting part too is I'm not sure exactly how Cleveland falls into this if they finish 12-4, but I think if the Dolphins wound up winning their final two games and Tennessee loses at Green Bay on Sunday night, I believe there's a possibility. And then the Steelers, if the Steelers lose, say against Indianapolis at home on Sunday, which certainly is a possibility.
Oh yeah.
I haven't done that permutation, but I believe Buffalo might end up being the 2 seed, which would mean a Dolphin game at Buffalo in back-to-back weeks.
Wow.
Which certainly would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
that's another monkey in the wrench.
But they got to take care of business first, like
that's
you mentioned.
It. Take care of business. And the way they're playing, not just winning, but now what? 8-1 against the spread, last 9, which just shows you that they're taking care of business the way that they're supposed to take care of business. And when they won this game, it's interesting how they won, because the injuries were there at receiver, at both tight end and wide receiver. The top 2 guys were out. So you so you knew, and you have the rookie against Bill Belichick. So, and it wasn't like the Dolphins had a great running game all year. So you kind of felt, okay, it's going to be an ugly game. We talked about that last week, the possibilities and turnovers and field position and special teams. But no, the Dolphins ran the football down New England's throats. And that was a surprise, but it was a welcome surprise for the Miami Dolphins. How impressed were you, and what specifically stood out for you of how Miami was able to do this?
No, I was shocked because, like you mentioned, they hadn't shown that all year. I think in terms of yardage per game on the ground, they came in, I think they were 29th or 26th, one of those two. And then rushing yards per play coming into the game Sunday, they were dead last in the entire NFL. And there was absolutely nothing to suggest that they could take advantage of what clearly was New England's weakness on defense. Everybody knew that. And we all saw what the Rams did to them on the Thursday night game. But you go into this one and you're thinking, well, it's a shame that the Dolphins don't have the kind of running game that could take advantage of that weakness, because it's a weakness. And then lo and behold, all of a sudden, and you're doing that against the Bill Belichick defense with 3 rookie starters on the offensive line, and with a running back in a starting role who hadn't played in 3 weeks because of a shoulder injury, Savon Ahmed, and then Matt Breida back from the COVID list, who had missed 2 games, who hadn't done a whole lot the entire season. He looked really, really good. And then you see big holes provided by the offensive line, great blocking up front, and they just completely wore down the Patriots. They were down 6-0 at the half, didn't do a whole lot in the first half, but they just kept pounding and pounding and pounding the ball, and eventually completely wore out the Patriots. And it was yet another example of the genius of Brian Flores as a coach, which is adapt your game plan to your opponent. And in this particular case, they obviously spend the entire week focusing on the running game, make sure they had it fine-tuned, and lo and behold, 250 rushing yards. Their previous season high was 138. Think about that.
Incredible.
I mean, they topped it by 112 yards. I mean, crazy. They hadn't had a 100-yard rusher. They wound up with their longest running play of the season with Savon Ahmed when he bounced out a run to the outside when there was nothing inside, something you hadn't seen from a running back. It was just incredible. And I was shocked as I was seeing it happen. It's like crazy.
Yeah, I just we just looked at that play, that big run by Ahmed, and then there was also the run with Patrick Laird, which was very important because that came on third down, and that doesn't happen very often. We get a 3rd and 8. I think my guess is that it was, we're in a situation where we can, hey, maybe we could still kick the field goal here, or if we make enough on the ground, maybe we can go for it. So either way, but Laird made it, and that was huge.
Made it easily. If you see the play, I mean, it's just big hole, and it completely caught New England unprepared for that play. And I'm trying to think back to the last time the Dolphins wouldn't have gotten the first down on a draw play on 3rd and 5 or longer. And I've been covering this team on a full-time basis 30 years, and I'm not sure if I can come up with 5 of those plays in that entire time. They're just mind-boggling. And in fact, if I'm going to be honest, my initial reaction, I'm like, why are you calling a draw? The second the play began, why are you calling a draw play on 3rd and 8? And that didn't come close to not working. I mean, the blocking was incredible on that play. The huge gaping hole. Michael Dieter, who hadn't played it down on offense the entire year, comes off the bench when Solomon Kinley gets hurt, pulls, helps create that big, huge hole, and Patrick Laird does what he did. He's as steady and reliable as they come, hits the right hole, and he's 6-7 yards downfield before anybody even makes contact with him, gains 12 yards, and that was the key play on the drive that ended with Tua's touchdown that gave the Dolphins that 15-9 lead, or 15-9 lead that's eventually proved to be the winning touchdown.
Yeah, and I at that point, you're at the end of the 3rd quarter, you're down 2, so you can kind of understand the thinking there. Okay, he doesn't get the first, let's say he picks up 2 yards. Okay, we bring Sanders in. We're not going to put ourselves in a position where Tua is going to turn the ball over or whatever. New England hasn't done anything. Basically, they've scored 7 points, 9 points. They haven't done anything. So maybe our defense can hold them. If we kick a field goal here, maybe that could be the difference in the game. So, or you catch them off balance and you pick up a first down, or maybe even enough yards where you decide to go for it. So yeah, it was under the circumstances and the flow of the game, it was a veteran call. It was one of those calls that a Chan Gailey is a guy that's been around the league a long time. I mean, these are things that he's seen over and over and over again, and I'm sure he had all this playing in his head, and it turned out to be a great call.
Yeah, and it's playing the game circumstances. Again, realizing who you're playing. You're playing a New England offense that's not functioning very well right now. Their passing game's a mess. And it's a game where obviously you want to get the first down and go for a touchdown on the drive. But if you have to settle for a field goal, as you mentioned, it's not as problematic as, say, if you're playing Kansas City, where you basically need a touchdown every time you have the ball. So, again, it was a smart call under the circumstances of the opponent, of the game, the way they were running the ball, and it worked to perfection.
And that was one of their 4 drives. They had 10-plus plays, which is going to happen when you have over 250 yards rushing in the game. But that was that was the recipe right there. I mean, they couldn't have written it any better. And it's one of those things too. You're not gonna have that happen very often. But it just shows you too the kind of season the Dolphins are having. Everything is kind of working, or mostly everything. And now you got a rookie quarterback that's starting to settle in. It's clearly his team now. There's no more Fitzpatrick unless there's an injury. This is it. And this is going to be really important for Tua to get these starts in these pressure situations. This early in his career is great.
Sure, but I was shaking my head because to me, no, it's Brian Flores' team. It's not Tua's team. It's not Fitzpatrick's team. Look at the way they're winning.
Sure.
They didn't win because of Tua on Sunday. I mean, he was fine. He played a solid game except for the one mistake that he made, which was a bad mistake, which to his credit, he learned from and adjusted the next time it happened. But he's got to realize if he's getting pressure from the outside and moving up in the pocket, he can't, if he's going to throw the ball, it's got to be right then and there. And once he makes that move up in the pocket, he's better off just continuing to scramble and see what he can get, which he didn't do the first time. He tried to force a throw, was hit as he threw it, and then resulted in it was could have been a really crushing interception because the Dolphins had driven 95 yards. You remember that drive started at their 2-yard line, and they were at the Patriots 3 when the interception came. So it could have been really a deflating drive. And in the final analysis, it didn't matter. And kudos for Tua for learning his lesson because the situation was kind of similar in the fourth quarter early on when he again faced some pressure. And that time when he moved up in the pocket, he didn't hesitate or barely hesitated. And it was like, let's go and let me see if I can get into the end zone, which he did.
That's right.
And I got the touchdown. So,
yep.
And yeah, I get the point of this is good for Tua to get these types of games under his belt as a rookie in the NFL. Also, though, you remember this is a kid whose basically first real action at Alabama was the second half of the championship game. So it's not like he's not used to playing in intense, high-pressure situations. So I think maybe that part of it is a little bit overblown. So I think you're looking at a guy who just he's continuing to get better. He's not doing anything to hurt the team. His passing stats are modest. I should say he's usually not doing things to hurt the team. That interception could have hurt the team badly. But he's also doing a lot of efficient things. He's been very efficient. And with the way the defense is playing in the special teams right now, that's what they need a quarterback.
And what I really, and I think what you have to be pleased about more than anything is the fact that this is not a very, on paper, this is not a very talented, deep group of skill position offensive threats. Yet.
That's being polite.
Yes. Yet, you take Parker out, you take Gesicki out, and in steps Lynn Bowden the last couple of weeks, who was basically taken over for Perry, but and Grant, he's come in and he's looked good. He's done his part. And also you have this Durham Smythe kid, the tight end, who we talked about earlier this season. He looked like a man possessed out there every time he got his hands on the ball. He was making big plays. And look, they didn't ask these guys to do a whole lot, but when they needed these guys to make plays, they did.
No, and it all goes back to situational football. What they needed in this game was to be able to control the clock, which they did to some extent, certainly not as much as with the running game, but to some extent with some of the completions they got. But they were not going to be explosive on offense. Maybe even if they were at full strength, but without Parker and Gesicki, the likelihood of that happening was not very good to begin with. So what they needed to do to win this game again, defense, special teams, and controlling the clock, which is what they did, which is what they've done all year. Basically, they've done what they've needed to do. This is not a team that's going to score major style points, but they're 9-5. So.
Yeah, and that's just not their team this year. But that's okay. I mean, you just find ways. Patriots, same boat, but they're not making the plays that they need to make. And Miami has, for the most part, done that. That's why there's a lot of angry Patriot fans right now and a lot of happy Miami fans. So Dolphin fans deserve it because their team is definitely outplaying the New England Patriots and have outplayed them over the last several weeks when it's counted the most.
Well, and if Patriots fans are looking for sympathy from Dolphin fans because they're going to miss the playoffs this year.
Yeah, right.
I think they're going to be waiting a while.
Yeah. By the way, were you surprised there at the end that New England didn't kick a field goal? I didn't really think that made much sense to me. Why didn't they it was a minute and a half left, just kick a field goal? Now, I thought it was interesting how, to the extreme, Matt Rule went with Carolina. Like, as soon as he got down there was like 2:07 left in the game against the Packers on Saturday night. And, they get the one play, they get into field goal range, boom, kicks the field goal. And he did have 3 timeouts left, and they got the ball back. So it wasn't a gimme field goal. I think it was about 35, maybe something like that, 34. So it wasn't a gimme. And most coaches would have been, look, there's over 2 minutes left. I have 3 timeouts. Let me just go ahead and see if I can get the touchdown over with now. give it a couple of shots. But he, like I said, he went to the extreme right away. I was kind of surprised the Patriots didn't at that point. Let's just get the field goal. Remember, we even talked about this last week. They don't have the timeouts. The game is probably over anyway with no ability to return the onside kick. But still, I was kind of surprised they didn't at least give them a chance to kick the onside kick, and because they had to make the onside kick one way or another.
No, correct. But if you go for the field goal there and you miraculously recover the onside kick, now you have to go. Let's say from you're kicking off from the. Let's say you have to go from the 45. Yeah, from the 45 to score a touchdown. So you have to go 55 yards. Whereas right there you were at, I don't know, the 22-yard line or wherever it was, where you have 22 yards plus whatever you're going to have to drive to get in field goal range. I wasn't struck at the time by, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing this. Maybe because deep down I felt that regardless of what he was going to do, he wasn't going to end up with a different result anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
Because that passing game is so dysfunctional.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
No, I was surprised. I mean, I had seen snippets of the Pats here and there, and had seen him in bad times. I'd seen him in times where they looked a little bit better, but I mean, they were rough.
Yeah, the way their team is made up is they have to play almost nearly flawless football, and that's just that they haven't done that over the last few weeks. It's incredible too watching them play some of these games this year, and watching Cam play a few games like the Seattle game, and you go, wow, okay, but hey, not sure what the Jets are going to be able to do now that they're the number 2 team if they don't get Lawrence, but
they won't.
I'm just saying if Jacksonville doesn't win, of course, which I'm sure they won't. But that's the Patriots. You're still going to be a situation where you would think the Patriots and the Jets. I think there were 6 quarterbacks that are going to be available in the first round or 2 of this year's draft, and I could see the Patriots and the Jets definitely being 2 of the teams that take those quarterbacks. So, just not going to be Trevor Lawrence.
Are you 100% sure the Jets are going to move on from Sam Darnold?
No, but I think not at 2. I think now what you do is, I think the smart play is you probably try to trade down if you can, get some more capital, use one of the other picks in the first round later on to pick your quarterback. Now you've got some extra picks. And I'm saying your quarterback, meaning your insurance, a guy that you can put in the room with Sam Darnold. You give Darnold one more year. If he doesn't work out, you've got your quarterback sitting there as your number 2 guy. So I don't think you can go through this draft without taking a quarterback if you're the Jets and just go, okay, Sam Darnold, it's your season again. I just can't see that happening.
We've seen it down here. In fact, was it 2018 Dolphins had Ryan Tannehill, who was coming back from. No, he wasn't coming back. I'm sorry. Who was coming into his 7th season after being average for a lot of years, and a whole bunch of people expected them to pick a quarterback in that 2018 draft, especially when there were 5 available, and they wound up taking Minkah Fitzpatrick, sticking with Ryan Tannehill for one more year before they finally moved on. So. I don't know. I'm not quite.
It all depends on whether or not Joe Douglas likes one of those quarterbacks or not. That's what it is. We don't know what he likes or doesn't like. We all know Lawrence would have been the number 1 guy, but I mean, there were some good guys. There's some talent there. I mean, I think any of those other 5 guys could be capable starters in the league, but it's a crapshoot. You don't know. And if Douglas isn't infatuated with any of them, then you're right. And he says, okay, let me take care of everything else. We give Darnold one more year, and then we'll worry about the quarterback the next year. So that definitely happens if Joe Douglas doesn't really like one of the other guys. I don't know. We'll see. I know the Patriots have got to take a quarterback. Probably another team that could trade down and add another pick so they can, because I don't know if Bill Belichick will sit there at 15 and take a quarterback.
No.
I could see him trade down, get another pick, or use his second round. Mac Jones might be available in the early second round, a guy like that. One of these guys is going to slip too. I don't know who it's going to be, but I can see one of these. The North Dakota State kid. I've watched him on film. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 pick. I don't see it. I think there are good things to like about him. I understand why people are talking highly about him, but I don't see it. I think he's a late first, early second round guy, to tell you the truth. But you never know. It only takes one GM.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's the
Only
fun of it.
takes one to
And
fall in
as
love with a
Jet fans
player.
and Patriot fans, but especially Jet fans, that's what we get to talk about and we get excited about in a few weeks. That's when we become kings of the road. But for right now, it's the Miami Dolphins and the fans that have been waiting for week 16. And we've got a chance where we control our own destiny to be in the postseason. And again, as we led off with, I don't think, barring any lucky, we're playing Jacksonville and the Jets tonight, the last 2 weeks. I think the schedule is pretty good. I think it sets up pretty decently for Miami. And again, the fact that they don't have to worry about scoreboard watching is a really good thing. So I feel good about it. I do. I think they're going to get in. I think it's Baltimore that's going to be on the outs.
All right, we'll find out soon enough. I don't know. I mean, I was very squeamish about the game against the Patriots, and that turned out to be completely off the mark. To me, the degree of difficulty is so much higher for the Dolphins with the Raiders, who, mind you, the Raiders are not eliminated from playoff contention just yet. They have some talent. I would expect the Dolphins to win, but I don't think it's a gimme. In Buffalo at the last game of the year, unless they completely go into park mode, I think that's obviously a tricky matchup. And whereas Baltimore's got such a cake schedule, it's impossible to see them not going 11-5. So no, we'll see. I mean, obviously, I'd like to see the Dolphins in the playoffs. I don't know.
Well, the pressure is going to be key, and not just Tua. There's a lot of young players that are going to be playing for the Dolphins over the next couple of weeks that are playing key roles. They've not been in this spot before. The good news is the coaching staff, the veterans that they brought in that have been in these spots before. But there's a lot of young kids that have never played in these pressure situations before. And I think that's definitely where I would be the most concerned. But I'm just looking at how Miami's playing, how one team's playing, and how, say, the Raiders are playing. It's a gimme in that situation. But there's pressure, and you never know how these young kids are going to react to pressure. And you got a rookie quarterback. You don't know if he's going to have a bad day. So I understand all of those other details that come into. And look, when the Jets beat the Rams and the Bengals beat the Steelers, anything can happen from week to week.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. So we'll see. I think but what's also good is Miami fans, this is the beginning. And that's the promising thing that I'd be really excited about. That's why whether the Jets can finally get their quarterback and when they do, that's what I'm going to feel is, you know what? Now I can kind of sit back and enjoy watching my team play for the next 5, 6, 7 years and feel comfortable that they're not going to be 3-win team, a 2-win team. I'm going to be in the playoff contention every year, and that's something that Miami fans have not had the luxury of for a very long time.
No, they've done things the right way, and if you look at the Dolphins, whatever happens in these final 2 weeks, the 2020 season has been a smashing success because they've established a foundation. Yep. By all appearances, they have their quarterback set for the next several years. Knock on wood, nothing happens to him. And it's crystal clear by now, if it wasn't already, that they have a great coach who's going to put them in position to maximize their abilities.
That's right.
So the playoff spot would be icing on the cake and just a bonus.
Couple of quick things. Callaway was waived. Is that the last of Callaway?
I can't speak for the rest of the NFL, but I remember when he was signed and put on the practice squad and his suspension was lifted. I know there were a lot of fans. There were even some media people down here who were suggesting there's the impact guy that the Dolphins offense have needed. And the whole time I'm like, why?
Yeah, right.
Why are we assuming all of this all of a sudden? And I mean, obviously, I had 2 catches in 5 games, 4 targets. Last game on Sunday, Didn't play a snap on offense, played 2 snaps on special teams. So obviously there was some sort of issue there, either picking up the offense or something else. But you're looking at a team that's got a crying need for help at wide receiver, and this guy who's a former 4th-round pick, who excuse me, who put up decent numbers his first year with the Browns and can't help them. So obviously something is not right. Something didn't work.
And it's going to be important also. Hopefully Parker and Gesicki can be healthy this week. Nobody knows. So hopefully we'll see them practice. That's the first step, is to see that they start practicing, because if they don't practice, they're not playing. I think we're pretty confident about that. So we got to see them on the practice report this week, and hopefully they'll start practicing.
Well, they practiced last week, but they were limited the whole week.
Mm-hmm.
And then Brian Flores said Monday that all 3 of them, those 2 plus Jakeem Grant, came down to the wire on Sunday morning as to whether they were going to be active or not. Or going by that statement, then you would think they'd be able to go against the Raiders, but who knows?
And because the Dolphins will be playing on Saturday night, and that's the best game of the entire day, it just happens to be at night. They will be traveling on Christmas Day. So,
yep.
But look, there'll be an NFL game on Christmas Day. I hope they make that a ritual. If the calendar aligns, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday kind of thing, it'd be nice to have a Christmas game every year again. I mean, that's something they've gone away with. Even college football went away with it for a little while, but it'd be nice to have at least one NFL game every Christmas, if you can.
No, and next year Christmas falls on a Saturday, so I certainly would expect them to do it again.
All right, Alan. So we'll talk to you again next week after the Dolphins take on Las Vegas. Enjoy the holiday. Enjoy your Christmas. I hope it goes well. And thanks for doing this as always.
You got it. Right back at you, and happy holidays.